British Prime Minister Boris Johnson remains in intensive care after his coronavirus symptoms worsened dramatically. He was admitted to hospital in London on Sunday afternoon as a precautionary measure and continued to lead the government. But yesterday evening, as his health deteriorated, he handed over control to his nominated deputy, Dominic Raab, the Foreign Secretary. Hermione Gee reports.
The deterioration of the Prime Minister's health has taken many by surprise. He announced he had COVID-19 12 days ago, but was said to have mild symptoms.
First of all, in my own...
During his time in isolation, he's released several video messages urging Britons to stay at home. And earlier on Monday, he tweeted that he was in good spirits. His deputy, Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab, backed this up.
I can tell you the PM had a comfortable night in hospital and he's in good spirits. He's still in hospital under observation. He's being given regular updates on developments and he continues to lead the government.
The news that Johnson has been transferred to intensive care has drawn an outpouring of support from around the world. US President Donald Trump sent his best wishes.
Americans are all praying for his recovery. He's been a really good friend. He's been really something very special, strong, resolute, doesn't quit, doesn't give up.
In a tweet, French President Emmanuel Macron sent his support to Johnson and the British people at this difficult time. And President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, tweeted that her thoughts are with the British Prime Minister. The Prime Minister's office said that 55-year-old Johnson is conscious and doesn't require ventilation, but was moved into intensive care in case he needs it later. Hermione Gee, Euronews.
Well, let's find out more. Head to London and speak to our reporter, Vincent McAviney. Vinny, morning to you. This is, of course, really worrying for the British population. What do we know about Boris Johnson's current condition?
Good morning, Rosie. Yeah, it's incredibly worrying. Downing Street had understandably tried to play all of this down. But when he was moved on Sunday to hospital, it was very clear that the situation was more serious than they'd been letting on. So we know that on Monday he had a range of tests in hospital. Now, this would have been normal beyond blood work, which could have been done with him staying at Downing Street. We believe he's had scans, the possible suggestion that perhaps the virus had been affecting some of his organs. Perhaps he had had pneumonia as well. The last time that we saw him on Thursday night, he did look particularly ill and that he had lost some weight. We haven't seen him since then, and we know that last night he also got oxygen therapy before it was decided to move him to ITU. Now, the Downing Street has again said that this was a precautionary measure, but overnight many doctors have said you simply don't move someone to ITU to take up that crucial bed space at the moment as a precautionary measure. It is likely that if he is there, the Prime Minister might need some further intervention, and that will be via ventilation, which would of course require him to be sedated. And so the Prime Minister at the moment is very clearly in quite a difficult situation, and we wait to hear today what the updates will be on that.
And then, of course, you know, it's really almost unbelievable that you have a Prime Minister in intensive care who's taking over his jobs, roles, responsibilities while he clearly just needs to recover.
Yeah, I mean, there are serious questions about perhaps the Prime Minister should have spent a bit more time just trying to recover, not trying to power on and work through this. And he might have recovered like the Health Secretary, Matt Hancock, did. So that is a question now about all of this. But, I mean, Britain has a very flexible constitution that's unwritten. We don't always have a deputy Prime Minister. We did under Tony Blair and David Cameron, but Theresa May didn't have one and Boris Johnson doesn't have one because it kind of appoints someone who might be a successor to you. But of the three great officers of state, Foreign Secretary, Home Secretary and the Chancellor, you can sort of choose between those to be the first Secretary of State, and he has decided that the Foreign Secretary, Dominic Raab, will be his de facto deputy. This was decided when they came into government last year, but the Prime Minister last night in the statement said that the Foreign Secretary would be deputising for him as necessary, but frankly, the Prime Minister might have been able to say he was still trying to run the government from the hospital yesterday, but when you're in ICU, with that extreme intervention, you will not be able to run a country, and so, in effect, Dominic Raab is now the acting Prime Minister here.
Vinny, thank you very much for giving us an update from London.